Hello, everyone. Welcome to the U.S. Embassy's first virtual training webinar for our 2023-2024 Fulbright Foreign Student Program applicants. We are so thrilled to have you with us today. Thank you for joining. Thank you for taking time out of your lunch, out of your day to be here. And thank you for showing the interest in the Fulbright program. We're really excited to be here to try to help you be the best applicant you can be. And if you are selected, to be the best competitive candidate for placement for a study in the United States on a Fulbright grant. So again, thank you. This program will be recorded. It will be available afterwards on our YouTube channel at the U.S. Embassy Ghana YouTube channel. We'll put that into the chat box as well, so you can find it there. And without further ado, we're going to open today with having our Public Affairs Chief, Jenny Elliott, give a few opening remarks. That'll be followed by having our Education Specialist, Bernice Afote, give a little bit of information that they deliver all the time on their Education USA webinars, but this one is specifically for you. And she'll be able to explain how you make sure that you're writing that best personal essay, the best application you can. She'll be followed by our own US Fulbright scholar here in Ghana right now, Dr. Frimpong, who's joining us from Kumasi, where he's with our Education USA Center advisors here in Kumasi.
Oh, jumping up or you rather
I think, okay, Jen, you went on mute for just a minute, but I think that was introducing me, so I'm going to go ahead. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to welcome you today to today's seminar on behalf of the U.S. Embassy Public Affairs section. So as Jen said, my name is Jenny Elliott, and I'm the Public Affairs Counselor leading this great team. I'm so pleased to see the interest among applicants to attend today's seminar to learn tips and tricks for the Fulbright program. Since you've already begun the process, you may already know a bit about the Fulbright program, which celebrated its 75th anniversary last year. But for those who may not have read in on its storied history, the Fulbright program was created in the aftermath of World War II and reflects the U.S. commitment to peaceful relations among nations. This flagship international academic exchange program, sponsored by the U.S. government, has fostered mutual understanding between the United States and other countries since 1946, and in Ghana since 1958, just 1 year after independence. Since its inception, over 400,000 Fulbrighters from the United States and 165 countries have studied, taught, and conducted research in each other's countries while promoting international understanding and collaboration as participants and alumni. We are proud that today, the Fulbright program legacy is represented by hundreds of thousands of distinguished and diverse alumni who are contributing to a more peaceful, equitable, prosperous, and just world. Among them is Ghana's own former president, John Evans Atta Mills, a Fulbright scholar from 1970. The Fulbright program has a long record of achievement in promoting diversity and inclusion and striving to ensure that its participants are fully representative of society in the United States and abroad. I wish you all the best with your applications. You've already shown you are taking the process seriously and seeking to put forward your best effort. If selected, you would join hundreds of passionate and accomplished students, scholars, teachers, and professionals of all backgrounds and fields who are teaching, exchanging ideas, and contributing to find solutions to complex global challenges. Even if not selected, the United States is the world's premier destination for higher education, and opportunities abound to continue your studies. As Jen mentioned, we have our Education USA advisors on this call, and they will be available, they are always available, to counsel you and help you explore all your options if you're interested in pursuing study in the United States. So good luck to everyone, and I wish you a productive webinar. Thanks, Jen.
Jenny, thank you so much. It was great to put everything into context for our guests here on the call today. Thank you. And as we continue to put things into context, one of the reasons why we are holding this webinar today is because this is a competitive process and we want you to succeed and thrive. As Jenny mentioned, if this does not become your path to go study in the United States, the process of applying to this program is a great starting and a building block to other ways that you may find your way to study in the United States. And again, that's where our Education USA colleagues come in handy as well. But to give you a little bit about the numbers. So we have right now nearly 300 in-progress applications that have already been started. This is where you came from. This is how you were invited, nearly 300. Now, what we do know is traditionally we have about 50 applications that are submitted and finalized. So that means we know it's a difficult process and we know it takes time. You need to schedule and manage your time carefully. The deadline is April 22nd for this program, for this application season. And in all of that, we will have about only 15 that will have the opportunity to be interviewed, to be selected as a finalist or principal candidate that is put forward for the Fulbright program. So it is not an easy process, and we understand that. We also really understand that it is time consuming. So we want your investment in the process to be beneficial for you, not only here, but far beyond. So with that, let's move on to our educational specialist, Bernice, with the Education USA program. As I mentioned, we have 2 centers here in Ghana for the Education USA program. That's one here is in Accra and one is in Kumasi. If I can quickly have our colleagues from Kumasi turn on their cameras and unmute yourselves so that you can quickly say hello. We have Marilyn and Margaret joining us, and Dr. Frimpong, who's going to be speaking shortly, our Fulbright scholar that's visiting. So Marilyn, thank you so much for joining us from Kumasi, please.
Thank you very much, Jen. As Jen said, my name is Marilyn Owusu. I'm one of the Education USA advisors based in Kumasi. Margaret is here, she'll introduce herself, but I'll quickly let you know where our center is so that anytime you're in Kumasi or close by, you can just walk in. Education USA Kumasi is based at ACE Consult at Top Martins Complex, which is in Asokwa. Top Martins Complex is also very close to the Kumasi Mall. So anytime you want to visit us, just look for Top Martins Complex at Asokwa, and you'll be able to, Google should be able to bring you directly to our office. Thank you very much. I'll pass it on to Margaret to introduce herself.
Thank you, Marilyn. Hello, everyone. My name is Margaret Nyaku, and I'm also an Education USA advisor based at the Education USA Advising Center in Kumasi. It's great to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you both. Wait. Thank you both. multitasking here on this computer as we manage our virtual experience. And thank you. And without further ado, let me introduce Bernice, my colleague here in Accra, with our Education USA team and our Education Outreach Specialist. Please. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bernice Afuti, and I'm privileged to be with you this afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm privileged to be with you this afternoon. We are going to be talking about the process so you can have an opportunity to touch on the applications you've already submitted. As Jen said, some of the processes you'll be going through is also similar to what people go through when they're applying to pursue educational programs in the US. So I will begin to share my screen. Give me a moment. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So when you're applying to schools in the US or to pursue programs in the US, at EdUSA, we have a 5-step application process. And the first step will be to research your options and choose schools that are most suitable to you. Think of the finances and apply to schools that you can afford. Complete an application based on requirements. Complete an application based on requirements, apply for a visa, and prepare for your departure. But because this is a US government-funded program, you probably won't have to break your head about funding, which is step 2. I'll skip that. Even researching your options, my understanding is that after you manage to put in an application and you get selected, the program organizers or reviewers, they try to match you to a school that is best suited to your needs because they would have learned about you, your experiences through the application you submit. So we won't dwell on that either. I'm going to dwell a lot more on the application itself. We won't worry so much about visa. A pre-departure orientation will be organized for you. So I will touch on a few things. I'll be skipping some slides because those don't pertain too much to you because of the kind of program you've applied for. I want, as we all know, graduate studies is intense, it's focused. So unlike undergraduate programs where you apply to an institution, with graduate programs, you'll be applying to a department. Again, this will be taken care of for you, but you have to determine what program you're going for and put an application together that will be suitable for that program. You have to be goal-oriented. So as you go through these steps, it should all point to a goal. You can have a long-term goal and have mid-term and short-term goals that will come together to help you achieve your long-term goal. In graduate school, you're more independent than at the undergraduate level. Undergraduate, they literally hold your hands through the whole 4 years. Graduate school, you're more in charge. So you have to be disciplined. You have to know what you're going for and work on that. Definitely you will have a supervisor who will be working with you, but you run the show, so to speak. And at the graduate level, it's more research heavy. you are expected to add onto the body of existing knowledge. So you do research, write your results, analyze it, present it in a way that will, advance knowledge, but also add onto what is already in existence. So talking about graduate studies, we're actually looking at masters and also doctorates. In Ghana, we are more prone to say postgraduate. US, they say graduate. So what I'm talking about is for people who have a first degree, they're going for their masters, or they have a master's, they are going for a PhD, okay? And then depending on whether it's a master's or a PhD, that also determines how long. Most master's programs in the US are 2 years. And then the doctorates, depending on whether you are going in with a first degree or master's, will span between 3 and 5 years. Sometimes, depending on your research, it can go up to 6 years. I've seen people go all the way to 8 years. But typically within 4 years, you should complete your PhD. We're going to focus more on how we can put a strong application together. US institutions look at applications holistically. What this means is they're not only going to look at your transcript. You have a first degree, a first class, you have a second upper, and then you are in. It doesn't work like that. They want to understand other aspects about you. So they take a holistic review of your application. And typically there are graduate committees that review applications. I won't talk about the funding bit, but just to let you understand, no individual would sit down and review an application and say you are in or you are out. There will be usually members in a committee who will look at different aspects of your application before they decide whether you will be in or out. Most of these, choosing your best school will not matter because you will be placed. But it's important for you to determine based on what level you are on now. If you have a first degree, do you want to go for a master's? Do you want to go for a doctorate? There are a few programs that can have you go into PhD programs with your first degree because they have a joint program. That doesn't mean that you are skipping the master's level of education. It's all together. Those typically take 5 years if you have a first degree. But even with the master's, there are different aspects of the master's program, whether your background is social work, whether it's engineering, whether it's business or humanities, there will be different aspects, or even with law. And then for the PhD, there are also different types of doctoral programs. So you need to determine which one you want to go for. I'm skipping all these. I'm going to focus more on the essay and then the letters of recommendation. So if you permit me, I will turn over onto another presentation to talk about the essays, because that's a very critical part. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get out of here. I'm sorry, I'm trying to change onto another slide, another set of presentations.
And just as a reminder, please use the chat if you have questions. And the Education USA website on our website is also in the chat. So please use the chat function. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, so when you are writing your statement of purpose, remember that that's one very important component of your application. It tells your reviewers who you are, what you've been up to, and where you want to go. You're also telling them how participating in this particular program, in which case we're looking more at why you're applying to the Fulbright program, how that can help contribute towards your career goals. So this is an example. This man he studied computer science and is going to graduate school. So he will be applying. He needs to have a plan. He needs scholarships. You don't, by virtue of the program you're applying to. But he needs to write his statement of purpose. And we want to look at what goes into the statement of purpose. Now you can see a lot of people, different heights and sizes, right? When you write the essay, so these are other requirements. But when you are writing the essay, you want to stand out. The essay gives you an opportunity to stand out amongst the lot. Jen had just indicated that she's received close to 300 applications. They all possibly have a university education. They may all have some of the other things the program requires. And you want to be selected. She mentioned 15. How can you jump from 300 into the first or top 15? Your essay has an important role to play. So as I said, it gives you an opportunity to showcase yourself, highlight your own abilities. Who are you? What goals do you have? And you don't, this is not a situation where you say, oh, participating in the Fulbright program will help me achieve my career goals. Most people I talk to, most students tell me that. And then I have to remind them that I do not know what their career goals are. So it's always important to be open about it and be very specific about what your goals are and how participating in this program will help move you in the direction of your goals. So you need to really have a plan. You need to think a lot. Think about where you want to go and all the resources and opportunities that would help you get there. Think of who you are, what is on your records. The statement of purpose is not just showcasing your CV or talking about your life experiences or just indicating that you are #1 writer, you know how to use big grammar, but it's just an opportunity for you to showcase your entire achievements. So your resume definitely or CV will talk about all your accomplishments, whatever you've won in the past, how many years, the work you're doing, how your supervisors see you, what inroads you've been making, but you're also sharing your life experiences. And of course, use all the grammar you have. It should just be coherent and it should flow. It should make sense to whoever is reviewing your application. But writing the statement of purpose also gives you an opportunity to be heard. They want to hear you. They want to know what you've been up to. They want to know where you've been, okay? You don't want to say everything else you said on your resume. It will be repetitive. But this essay grants you an opportunity to talk about anything else that you haven't captured on your resume. Sometimes your life experiences become very important because they give a background of who you are, what you've been through, and how those experiences have shaped your life, or how they've even contributed towards some decisions you've made, or even continue to make, okay? It's not an opportunity for you to say what went wrong with your university. It's an opportunity for you to discuss whatever didn't work well. How did that affect you and how you've gone around the challenge? It needs a lot of planning. It's not just an opportunity to just sit. You don't want to sit down one day and say, oh, today I have to finish this essay. And then you just fill in. If there's a word limit to try to fill in. No, it has to be thought of. It has to be well planned because that is your life on paper. You are pouring your life, your plan, your aspirations, everything on paper. So you really need to spend time on it, okay? And I'm bringing your voice again because nobody can speak better for you than yourself. And this is not like an interview. Remember that you submit all these things before, if it goes well, you have an interview and you get an opportunity to say more again. So right now, you are not talking to anyone. It's the paper that will speak for you. How are you going to project yourself through this essay? It becomes very important. So we're saying that it has to be a candid description of yourself. If you have any assets, if you have any liabilities, if you have any professional or academic achievements, you want to say all of that. So don't write what you think your reviewers want to hear. It has to be the true picture. Talk about your strengths. By all means, if you've had challenges, talk about them, but don't make it a Mobrowa story. Mobrowa, for the sake of Jen, we all understand Mobrowa. You are not the saddest person on earth. You are not the most sorrowful. Yes, you may have gone through some very challenging times, but paint it in a good way, in a positive way. Maybe you came out, your background is that when you were growing, there was your family was very poor. You ate only one meal a day, but of course you did not die. So don't paint a very gloomy picture. That taught you to be extra forceful. That challenge made you very hardworking. You learned to sell things along the side whilst you were still going to school. Whatever your experiences are, you know better. That's why we want to hear your voice through your essay. If you've had the opportunity to have any professional experience, you also want to talk about it. So your introductions should be catchy. You can tell a story, you can describe somebody, you can use a quote, you can use a short but powerful statement. You want to make it in a way to capture your reader's attention. If you start in a way and the person reads the first line and it's like, where are we going? Remember that there are 300 applications they're reading. So they probably won't have all the time. If it's possible, maybe we can share a few of the key points from this. I know this is a lot. You may not be able to read all. But if you want to make your introduction catchy by painting a picture, then you can look at that. You can also use a field of study. You can make it your life story, but make it very crispy and exciting, very catchy, very interesting. You can tell a story. So we all have very different writing styles. We have different experiences. We have different personalities. This is not a one-size-fits-all kind of situation, but you want to look at what about you stands out that will draw people's attention onto your work, onto your essay. Look at what will work for you and use it. If you want to share your experiences, these are examples. Somebody says, during high school, I was fascinated with electronic gadgets. Because remember, this example we're looking at is interested in computer science. Soon thereafter, designing and building basic circuits started as a hobby. Then he goes on and on and on. Somebody also will look at it. So this is someone from high school. It started way back in high school. This other example started from university. You can look at it from any angle if you want to share your story, okay? So now, where do you want to go? These ones will not come in that much because you are not focused on a particular school. But at least you have a long-term goal. Where do you want to end up? You can target your essay towards that. In conclusion, I know I've rushed through this a lot because we have Dr. Frimpong, who will also share a live, or like, he has gone through it. So maybe what he has to say will be more, you can relate more to that. This is just to put something at the back of your mind, that the essay is very important. If you have to submit recommendations as well, you need to spend time and work it out with your recommender. Some people know you very well. They probably don't remember you. Send them CVs, meet with them, update them on what you've been up to so that they can write good recommendations for you. But always remember that it's not a one-man committee that will review your application. People will sit down and talk about you, review your application, discuss it. What are you bringing to the table? Why should they choose you and not your friend or the other person who also applied? I will end here. If I get the opportunity to share, I will share with you. But thank you very much for listening. If there are questions that pertain to this presentation, I'll come back.
Thank you so much. I wish we had 2 hours instead of just one, because there is a lot of really good information that Dr. Bernice is able to share with you, because this is her area of expertise. So I really strongly encourage everyone here to please use our Education USA resources that are made available to you. As you saw, we went through an entire slide presentation with only a fraction being shared with you. Their entire sessions are available both on our YouTube channel, or you can email and ask to be on their mailing list to join their other sessions and workshops. Engage with their centers. They are a resource there for you. I also want to remind everyone to please be sure to look at the application guidelines and advice. So if you go back to the website for to our US Embassy website where you first found out about our application process, it says clearly that your personal statement and study objective should not be more than 2 pages, 1 to 2 pages. Don't make it teeny tiny font, because again, we're reading them. Don't make it large, but 1 to 2 pages, standard formatting. We strongly encourage you to write first in a Word document and then copy and paste it into the actual application. You can revise those by uploading new, if you have already submitted your application until April 22nd, you can revise and submit a new personal statement if you want to go back and recraft what you've already submitted. That is okay. The other thing that I really want to stress, do not plagiarize. Don't try, don't plagiarize others, and don't plagiarize your own work. If you are a scholar or someone who has actually already produced work that's out there in the public domain, and if you're quoting from it, you must source it. If you plagiarize, you will immediately be eliminated from being considered a Fulbright grantee. Do not plagiarize. All right. So with that, as Bernice was saying, we have with us our US Fulbright scholar, who's a special treat, and I think you'll feel quite well connected to Dr. Frimpong. He is an American Ghanaian and has a great experience of both education here in Ghana as well as education in the United States. He is a professor at State University in Blacksburg, Virginia, and has sat on the review committee before of new students applying to study at one of his institutions that he has worked with. He has reviewed Fulbright applications, and so he can give you truly expert advice. He'll have a few slides to also share with you. And without further ado, Dr. Frimpong, please. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jen, and everyone. Technology snafu here. I keep scratching the slides that I'm showing. I'll get. So thank you for inviting me. As Jen and Bernice have said, my role here is to shed a little more light and detail on some of what Bernice has already shared. A little bit more on my background. I've been introduced in bits and pieces, but to be accurate, I'm a professor of fish conservation, fish ecology and conservation at Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University. It's usually called Virginia Tech. 25 years ago, I was just finished my bachelor's degree at Tech, KNUST, and looking for grad schools in the US and doing applications, something quite similar to what most of you would be going through now, applying everywhere and looking for advice and trying to find my way to do the best application I could. Today, I'm actually the director of our graduate program. And so I routinely, not occasionally, review applications for admission. I also field questions from prospective students, sometimes way before they apply, a year before they apply, they would contact me and ask what to prepare for and so forth. So those are some of the experiences. So it's before maybe worth that everyone is in two competitions. If you are right now in the pool to compete to be selected as one of the top candidates for the Fulbright US Foreign Student Award. So that is the first competition. The second competition is being graduate programs. And it's important to remember there are a lot of US institutions, even programs that you might be interested in may be available across so many institutions. But when it comes to individual programs, every program has a limited space for students. The number of students it can actually bring in a particular year. And on top of that, being considered for admission is simultaneously being considered for supplementary financial support. As somebody popped a question in the chat, the Fulbright program offers 2 years of funding. You are asking PhD programs, for example, will take 4 to 6 years, while Fulbright 2 years. So when we review Fulbright applicants, they are coming in with some award, but we are also still considering how we can support them in the years that they are not on Fulbright funding to have a complete set of financial opportunities available for them to actually complete a longer degree. And so because we are considering both space and our resources, it is a limited opportunity that you are competing. Usually people make it to the admission as well as to being awarded the Fulbright. So you have to know why you are applying. Benny's talked about statement of purpose to quite extent. You have to have shown through application why this university of all universities, even if you were matched by the program, by the Fulbright program, you don't want to say, somebody put me in this university, that's the choice I had. It's not a good choice. You have to have something to say to make the university and those who are reviewing your application feel like you have chosen them. There is something special about them, that you connect with the values of the university, and that they are the best of all the universities out there that you think you should attend. Make your story, give the university a sense that you really want to be there, and that they are known out there as special in some way. So in that sense, usually when we advise graduates, undergraduate students going to graduate school, we tell them why some people apply to graduate school and fail and some don't. Some get admitted and still drop out. And these 3 Ps that I have put over here, it might come up again in the next 5 or so minutes as I go to the next slide. Place, i.e. the university, why that what I'm looking for there is that the best place to do a project are the professionals they're doing are applying to do. If you articulate great research, but there's nobody who matches the kind of expertise that you need to accomplish that research, it can be a serious limitation to your application being given a positive consideration. And the professor, graduate school generally, especially research-oriented one, is a relationship between and if you don't connect with them well, if you don't know them well, if you haven't talked to them before, a lot of people get to grad school and realize that they have the wrong professor, and that can be a problem. So place, project, your professor, 3 Ps, those 3 things should be in the back of your mind as you prepare your application and you tell everyone why you want to go to that university. These 3 things should be coming up one way or the other over and over again. So there are 6 things that we look for in evaluating applications, and run through them some quickly because some have been touched on already. Of course, the first metric anybody thinks about when they consider the candidate for graduate school admission is GPA. You look at your transcript. Some institutions and some programs may be quite interested in specific subjects. For example, if you're applying to do some kind of modeling or strongly mathematical work, they will look at your quantitative scale. If you are going to do something that requires significant writing and a good construction of writing, your verbal skills may be even more important. So GPA is important, and there are cutoffs for admission to US institutions. At least my home institution, if you don't have a 3.0 equivalent on a 4-point scale, if you are admitted as a conditional student. You need to have higher GPA usually to be competitive, such as 3.5. Test scores, GRE now ranges widely from not required to very high scores required. Our institution stopped considering the GRE some 4 or 5 years ago. And so a GRE is not particularly important once you pass the selection stage and you're applying, for example, to my department, and a lot of biological sciences programs have done the same, but some programs require it, and when they do, it is a department requirement, usually not a requirement, and every department has their own cutoff, and you want to know that your GRE is competitive for the particular department you're applying to. Benny's touched on letters of recommendation. Letters of recommendation are given a lot of weight in US application evaluation. Make sure you select professors who know you well, and professors are preferred and some other acquaintances. People who can speak to your strengths, people that you have been with, related to not so long ago, so they remember the great qualities that you need emphasized in the letters of recommendation. Your essay, which is what was the big focus of Venice's talk, is a very big component of application evaluation. It has to be coherent, it has to be tailored to every institution that you're applying to. One essay doesn't necessarily fit all. Make sure your essay is proofread, you remove grammatical and typographic errors. Those can be a throw off when we start reviewing an application that's showing all sort of bad writing. It's not likely that so it's important that you take that essay seriously. All the points Benny suggested to pay attention to should be there, but in addition, no errors. CV or resume should be formatted to a modern style. There are a lot of resources online now to show you how to put a CV or a resume together in a way that is pleasing to look at, pleasing to read. And don't crowd things and don't make the font strange, too small, too large, some kind of justification that makes the text separate from each other in a weird way. All sort of formatting can easily make people not want to go through a certain document. And you want a CV to be simple and straightforward for everyone to look at. And it should be coordinating well with your resume and recommendation letters. A big disparity between what your CV is saying or what you're saying you are and what the recommendation letters are saying. That can be a no-go for evaluators. Finally, the interview. So if all the above has led you to be selected for an interview, and these days the interview is routinely by Zoom. If you were in the US, you would be interviewed in person. The point to remember about the interview is we already know a lot about you. The reason you are being interviewed is not to repeat, look at everything that is already in your CV or statement of purpose, your letters. You are invited for an interview, more than your personality is going to be evaluated. We want to see how well your personality, your personal interaction matches what we see on paper. Okay, and some people look better even in interview than they look on paper. In the minimum, your interview should reflect the person that we've seen on paper as accurately. You are on a short list if you are interviewed. Sometimes it's even just you being interviewed. But regardless, the interview can be a make or break. If it doesn't go well, it can lead to you not being considered. I sit on interviews all the time with the faculty that's considering a student. It may be a full panel, depending on the institution and how they do their admission. Take it seriously, even if it's just you and a prospective advisor. They are bringing you into their lab and they want to make sure that you fit the lab, that you don't come in and become a disruption, but rather a great addition that makes the whole lab function well together. So, they're looking for your personality. They may even give your contact to another graduate student or a past student to interview you and tell us what they think about you. So this interview is mostly your personality. You have to exude confidence and yet don't be cocky and don't your goal should not be to tell everyone that you are the best person out there that, by every standard, but you should be willing to tell and say it confidently what you have accomplished that makes you a suitable candidate for the program and that you are trying to ask pertinent questions. That means you have to do your homework and make sure that you know a lot about the university, about the department, about the lab that you are trying to go into, so that the questions that you ask are relevant. If you ask any questions, it is weird. Do you really know what you are getting into? And if you ask questions and they are off the wall, not very relevant to the conversation at stake, it's not great either. So do your research and pick questions that make somebody realize that, yes, you've been reading about this program, you really want to come into this program, you know what you're looking for. All right, so these are the highlights of some of the ways that you can make sure that you progress through all this to admission. And with that, I'll wrap up and let Jen take over.
Dr. Frimpong, thank you so much for all of that great advice. And I want to underscore what you started off with at the top, which is, our applicants are really in two competitions. And it's a really important thing to think about, which is again, why not only are you in two competitions, but I want you to think about your investment in the, to think about how you use this process to your advantage to apply for other programs and other pathways for study in the United States. One thing that I think was mentioned, but just in case it wasn't mentioned enough, let me underscore, as you're applying, not only for the Fulbright, but for any application process, please seek out people to review your work. A quick little insight to the way we work at the US Embassy. If I were to write a speech, it would be reviewed and edited by at least 4 other people before it was ever considered final. And we're all really smart, educated people, I promise. And we write a lot, but no one is a great editor of their own work. Please, please engage your peers, seek out your professors, seek out other colleagues who can peer review your work, your personal statement, and your study objective, and listen to their feedback, take it into consideration. Now, that said, we've also given you a lot of helpful advice about how personal statements for US academic institutions is probably quite different than what maybe your professor here in Ghana might be looking for or thinking is a personal essay. So make sure that you're giving those people doing the peer review context in order to be able to provide good feedback. I also want to respond a little bit to a question that was asked in the chat and explain my answer, because this is something we get asked a lot. Is someone's already applied to do their master's degree at University X in the United States, and they've been admitted for the 2023 school year, 2023-2024 school year. Can or should they still apply for the Fulbright? Yes, absolutely. However, it's really important to understand the way the Fulbright program works. It is not a funding stream to your school of choice. The Fulbright program has been, as Jenny mentioned at the top of the hour, that this is a program that's been in effect for decades. And our Fulbright placement advisors are expert at connecting students with the best program, with the best financial package that is available for that student. And you will be placed by the Fulbright program to an academic institution. So it is not you say, oh, I got to the University of Maryland, that's where I want to go, and you put that into your application, your Fulbright application. That's not how it works. So I think that's important. What we do recommend is if you are if you really are committed to the Fulbright program process, you can always reach out to your school that you've been admitted to, ask for a deferment, and continue through the process, and use that year in between to find additional financial streams and opportunities. Again, use our Education USA resources for that, and then wait for the results from the Fulbright program as well. So I see a question about the preferred course. Yes, you want to be very specific about what area of study you want to have. That is very important in your study objective. So when you consider what your study objective is, and do look at what the guidelines and the tips are on our app, on our page, on our USMC Ghana page, about some tips on how to write a compelling study objective. But yes, it's very important. And know that your study objective is what our Fulbright Placement Committee will be using to get you into the program that's right for you. That's why, so it is very important. I hope that answered that question. We are coming up to the end of the hour. I'm sure you all have some questions. I hope you're not intimidated, but you're inspired by this session. And I hope that you will take out of this useful tips that allow you to complete an application that you are really proud of. And you, again, use that to explore the variety of ways to consider education in the United States. I also want to thank you all for the time that you put into this process. If you do have questions still after this, you can send messages to our Accra Exchange at state.gov email address. My colleague will put that into the chat box in just a moment. Again, that's the Accra Exchange at state.gov and our email address. The deadline again is April 22nd. And I will pause for just, we've got a few minutes. Are there any last questions? Hopefully everyone is inspired to go back to their computer after this, well, I guess you're at your computer, and continue your application. I will say one last thing is through the application process, because we do get a lot of applications, it will only be our shortlisted candidates. The timeline for the Fulbright Foreign Student Program is listed on our website at US Embassy Ghana. So please do take a look at that. And that'll help you guide your mental expectations, your mental planning. And please, please also feel free to reach out to the Accra Exchange at state.gov email if you have other questions. And I just saw another question about asking, as a member of the diaspora, are you eligible to apply? So our different programs have different eligibility, but in this case, for this particular program, we ask that you are a resident and you are residing in Ghana at the time of application. We know that conferences and workshops and programs may, of course, take you outside temporarily. Some studies may take you outside of the country, but at the time of application, we ask that you are residents in Ghana. Something also actually that triggers that may not have been mentioned is, the purpose of our investment in Ghana via the Fulbright program is because a core priority of the United States is investing in the Ghanaian people. If we're glad that you're coming to the United States and we want you to come, but we also want you to return to Ghana and continue the investment that we make in you back into Ghana. And so I think that's something also really important to think about as you think about your study objective and your personal statement, explaining to us your long-term plans about your commitment and to make a difference and an impact on your country, beautiful country here in Ghana. I see another question. If you have just begun contacting a professor in your university of preference before the application deadline, must you list his name? You don't have to. And I will say, so in our instructions on our website, we say that you should not actually explicitly list an institution or a faculty member that you're interested in related to your study objective. However, if you've been inspired or influenced by a particular program or a particular faculty member, that's something that you could certainly weave into your personal statement. If you are shortlisted, that is something worth bringing up in your interview and letting us know at the time of being shortlisted or at the time of final selection. As we engage with our Fulbright placement team, it's something that we can make sure that we raise for them, that you have a particular relationship, maybe with a particular school or a particular university, but that is not a guarantee. The next question is, could you please explain the difference between the study objective essay and the statement of purpose? Okay, and I'm trying to remember now because again, we have like 3 or 4 different programs that are open at the same time and they all do something slightly different. If I'm not mistaken, I think the statement of purpose, they're the same. So in our application, you really have your personal essay, you have your study objective, your purpose. So your study objective is what you want to pursue for your academic career. Your personal statement is all about you. Your statement of purpose, and I'm trying to think if I'm assuming you're already into the application well far enough that you know that these 3 things already exist in there. A statement of purpose is talking a little bit more, as I was saying, we want to know why. So your statement of purpose is why the Fulbright, why study in the United States, and what and how are you going to make an impact on your country here in Ghana. I hope that helps. Unfortunately, we must conclude this session. There is a survey that is available to you. Please complete that survey. It's your feedback is incredibly helpful for us to understand if this was useful, how we can improve it, and more importantly, if we need to do more of these going into the future. Again, don't forget your Education USA resources, and I look very forward to reviewing all of your applications. It is a joy of my job to get to meet Ghana through these applications, and I thank you for the opportunity. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.